Alright people, it's that time once again, and what better way to say see you later to 2025 than to talk about my 10 favorite movies of the entire year. I saw about 70 new releases over the last 12 months, and I finally zeroed in on what I believe is the absolute best of the bunch. From ping-pong odysseys to bizarre musical biopics, the year was filled with a wide variety of offerings that made narrowing this list down a real challenge. So enough with the small talk, you know what the deal is here. It's time to get into my list of the top 10 best movies of 2025. Coming in at the number 10 spot is Begonia, and as a guy who doesn't usually vibe all that much with the bizarre work of Yorgos Lanthimos, this one kind of hit for me. It basically felt like Good Time from the Safdie brothers, but only if it was centered around a possible large-scale alien invasion, which isn't really even a mashup I knew I needed until I sat down to watch this film. It has a lot to say about corporate greed, self-destruction, and it almost acts as a cautionary tale in a twisted kind of way. Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone fully commit to the madness here, delivering super entertaining performances that will keep you intrigued and on edge for the entire runtime. I'm not going to say that everything here works, but even at its weakest, it's still more interesting than most of the safer, more polished films that came out this year. It's the kind of movie you'll think about afterward, replay scenes in your head, and maybe even like more in hindsight than you did while you were actually watching it, and that alone was enough to earn it a spot on the tail end of this list. Taking the number 9 spot is Hamnet, and this is not just another one of those serious period piece movies engineered in a lab specifically for award season. It's probably the most emotionally raw and human film of 2025, full stop. Chloe Zhao does a good job letting the story breathe in a way that might test your patience if you're not fully locked in, but if you are, it kind of hits like a Mack truck. Jessie Buckley is the heartbeat of this movie, giving one of the most quietly devastating performances of the year, and Paul Mescal continues to prove that he is just incapable of missing. The minimal score, the lingering moments, and the unpolished realism all work together to make this feel less like a Shakespeare-adjacent drama and more like watching a real family process the terrible hand they've been dealt. It's not flashy, it's not crowd-pleasing in the traditional sense, but it sticks with you, and by the time the credits roll, Hamnet feels like the most human movie I saw all year. Coming in at number 8 is No Other Choice, and Park Chan-wook just knows how to direct a goddamn movie, people, because he was out there doing shit with the camera in this film that I've literally never seen done before in my entire life. The film takes a brutal look at the modern job market, AI anxiety, and economic pressure, then filters all of those worries through a darkly funny, increasingly unhinged thriller that somehow keeps you laughing while you're cringing at the same time. Lee Byung-hun is fantastic at walking that impossible line between sympathetic family man and escalating menace, and the film constantly reminds you that everyone he's competing against is just another regular guy trying to survive just like him. The pacing could definitely be tightened up, and Park may be sniffing his own farts a little too much behind the camera at times, but the craft on display is just undeniable. It's bleak, it's funny, it's stressful, and it's unfortunately way too relatable. Taking the number 7 spot is Bring Her Back, and this is one of those horror movies that doesn't just creep you out, it really makes you feel like you're watching something that you're not supposed to be seeing. The Filippo brothers follow up Talk to Me with something even bleaker and more unsettling, blending raw grief with genuinely disturbing horror in a way that's not for the faint of heart. Sally Hawkins is incredible as this foster mother unraveling right in front of our eyes, managing to be both evil and weirdly tragic at the same time, while Jonah Wren Phillips hits us with one of the most ridiculously demented child performances I've seen in years. Like, I couldn't wait for the camera to cut away from that feral little demon boy. He was just a total psychopath. The film trusts the audience, avoids over-explaining its rules, and lets dread seep in naturally through all of the atmosphere and imagery rather than using any kind of cheap tricks. A few story beats towards the end could have used a bit more clarity, but the emotional damage is already done by that point. It's nasty, it's depressing, exactly the kind of film that sticks with you whether you want it to or not. If 2025 had a horror movie that truly ruined my night, it's gotta be this one. Coming in at number 6 is F1, and this is exactly what you'd expect when the director of Top Gun Maverick trades fighter jets for Formula 1 cars. It's loud, it's cheesy, it's wildly entertaining, and it's engineered to play like a roller coaster ride in the biggest theater possible. Joseph Kosinski once again proves that he's one of the best in the business at putting the audience directly into the cockpit, delivering racing sequences that are absolutely electric and worth the price of admission by themselves. Sure, the story probably hits every familiar sports movie beat you could possibly imagine, and the third act plays things a little too safe to leave a lasting emotional mark, but the execution is still rock solid across the board here. Brad Pitt is effortlessly cool as this aging driver chasing one last shot at glory. Damson Idris brings solid young gun energy, and the supporting cast has great chemistry chemistry from front to back. It may not reinvent the genre or anything like that, but as a summer blockbuster built to be felt as much as watched, F1 absolutely delivers. And I mean, Brad Pitt doing movie star shit will never not work for me. It's basically a cheat code at this point. Coming in at the number 5 spot is Frankenstein, and this is exactly what you'd hope for when Guillermo del Toro gets his gothic-loving hands on one of the most iconic stories ever told, respectful of the source material, completely drenched in atmosphere, and just bursting with practical effects. Del Toro is able to keep the emotional core of Mary Shelley's novel intact while still adding just enough of his own flair to make this feel fresh, even though we've seen this story a million different times at this point. Jacob Elordi is a genuine standout as the creature, delivering a super nuanced and physical performance that gives the monster real curiosity and vulnerability, while Oscar Isaac is strutting his stuff as a brilliant man slowly collapsing under his own ambition. A few character beats feel slightly rushed, but the craft on display is a total sight for sore eyes, from the practical sets and lavish costumes to the stunning makeup and sweeping visuals that make this feel like a movie that just leaves it all out on the field. Del Toro pretty much never misses for me, and that streak continues here yet again. At number 4, we have Weapons, and this is one of those rare horror movies that actually keeps you guessing for the entire time, constantly pulling the rug out from under you and daring you to try and keep up if you're able to. Zach Cregger follows up Barbarian by swinging even bigger here, crafting a nightmarish mystery that's creepy, funny, unsettling, and genuinely unpredictable in ways that modern horror just usually isn't anymore. The premise alone gets you instantly on board, and the film smartly resists over-explaining itself, trusting the audience to sit in the discomfort and try to piece things together on their own. Josh Brolin is excellent as a father unraveling in real time. Alden Ehrenreich brings chaotic energy in all the right ways, and the child performances actually work, which is obviously never really a given in horror these days. The scares are used sparingly but hit hard when they actually land, often followed up by darkly funny beats that somehow make the whole experience even more unhinged. But this thing is messy in the best way, wildly confident, and capped off with an ending that puts a cherry on top of the whole experience. Horror fans ate very, very well in 2025, and this just has to be the main course. Taking the number 3 spot is Eddington, and like everyone else, I was pretty much done with all of these movies that took place sometime during the pandemic, but this is one of those films that utilizes the setup really well, and by the time it's over, you're either exhilarated or completely fried. Maybe both. Ari Aster takes the anxiety, paranoia, and absurdity of modern American life and just cranks it up until it becomes this darkly funny, deeply uncomfortable pressure cooker that never fully lets you relax, even for a second. Joaquin Phoenix is just operating in full chaos mode here, delivering a performance that's equal parts hilarious, unhinged, and quietly tragic, while the story around him is constantly shifting tones in ways that feel risky but are so entertaining. It's not always easy, and it's definitely not subtle, which is kind of the point, but it makes you question why everything feels so broken and absurd in the world around us right now. It doesn't all land perfectly, but it feels like a legitimate Western that delivers one hell of a finale after reaching its boiling point, and I'll never listen to Firework by Katy Perry the same way ever again. In the number 2 spot is Better Man, and this had absolutely no business working as well as it does, and yet here it is as one of the most refreshing and emotionally honest musical biopics that I've ever seen in my entire life. Turning Robbie Williams into a fully CGI chimpanzee sounds like a total train wreck any way you look at it, but it quickly reveals itself as the film's secret weapon, allowing the story to explore fame, insecurity, addiction, and self-loathing in a way that feels more raw than most by-the-numbers biopics ever dare to go. The musical numbers are big, energetic, and make you want to buy a plane ticket to London right then and there, while the quieter moments hit surprisingly hard because Williams doesn't ignore or shy away from his own flaws and mistakes. What starts as a wild gimmick turns into a genuinely affecting character study, and before you know it, you're emotionally invested in this bonkers idea for a story. If you told me that the most authentic movie of the entire year would be about a computer-generated singing monkey, I probably wouldn't bat an eye, honestly, because that sounds right up my alley, but I'd still be pretty surprised. Coming in at the number 1 spot is Marty Supreme, and this is somehow a sports epic, a coming-of-age tale, and a nerve-wracking thriller, all wrapped up into one ridiculous and stylish package. Josh Safdie turns a story that sounds like it's about 1950s table tennis of all things into a frantic fever dream about obsession, ego, and the mental insanity it takes to will yourself into being one of the all-time greats. Timothée Chalamet is operating at an entirely different level here, playing Marty Mauser as a cocky, reckless, borderline unhinged force of nature who you can't stop rooting for even as he continues to make the worst possible decisions imaginable. Just a complete lovable scumbag. The movie never sits sit still, constantly throwing you into new schemes, little side quests, and escalating disasters that feel desperate, stressful, and wildly entertaining all at the same time. It's just a total blast. Everything here is working overtime to keep you locked in and slightly panicked, marking it as the essential movie experience of 2025 for me. So there you have it, guys, my ranking of the 10 best movies of 2025. Now you know how my list shakes out, but I want to hear what yours is. Let me know in the comments below which movies are the ones that really made an impression on you last year. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.